A few weeks ago, I had a decision that felt very important to me that I was trying to make. And it felt important in a way where I didn't want it to come entirely from me. I wanted to get input from something else. And so I thought, how about I ask input from the divine? The first thing I did was to flip a coin. And I flipped it 4 times. And after 4 times, I thought, maybe the divine is busy elsewhere and the energy is not quite entering the flip of the coin. So I thought, okay, I'll do a tarot spread. So I did a tarot spread. And it laid out information, but it didn't tell me whether yes or no I should do the thing. So I thought, okay, I'll ask for a sign. If by tomorrow night someone asks me about the decision I'm trying to make, it will be a sign that the answer is yes. And so the day went by and no one asked. And then I thought, okay, that's a no, that's a clear no. The divine said no. And then in the coming days, I realized that no one knew that I was trying to make a decision. So I chose a different sign. I thought, okay, if a dragonfly lands on me, it will be a sign that it's a yes. And if a dragonfly doesn't land, it will be a no. And if winter comes, then I'm allowed to choose a different sign. And so, needless to say, I've been developing a more intimate relationship with dragonflies. I see them everywhere. It seems like they're staring at me a lot, but they never quite land on me. And they hover and they dance and they pass by me really quickly. And so I did all of that. And technically, the answer should have been no, because no dragonfly landed on me, but something didn't feel right about the process. But anytime I talked to many people about this process because I was trying to get input, and I was expecting the feedback to be very positive because we're in an ashram. And so I expected people to be like, wow, genius idea, Élinook. The divine will definitely speak with you, and good on you for putting your self-will out of it and asking for divine intervention. But that's not how many people responded. People looked at me with kind of a curiosity mixed with a healthy dose of doubt. And whenever I explained my logic to them, I would say, well, I'm trying to be a co-creator with the divine, and I'm trying to put myself aside. But still, a few weeks pass, and then we are on Monday, this past Monday. We had class, our weekly class. And in class, we learned this dance, which is a dance that represents the mantra in the 4th chakra, which is the heart chakra. And in that dance, I'll do you a little excerpt of the dance, and then I'll explain what happened. So it goes, this pair of swans which swims in the mine of the great, feeding on the unique honey of this lotus heart. This leads to opening of understanding. And with this dance, we were prompted, ask for a heart understanding, an understanding at the heart level. And so I did. And I was outside and I was, okay, I'm connecting with my heart. And now I'm ready for the understanding. I'm ready for the understanding. And I had 5 minutes left to my reflect. I am ready for understanding. And then I had a small realization in that moment where it was like, okay, I don't think it's realistic what I'm doing right now, where I'm demanding an answer in this moment. Maybe I just need to do the dance with my whole heart, and the answer will come eventually. Like there will be a ripple effect in my life from this dance. And then I went inside and I shared with my little group, And someone in the group said something, I can't remember what, but they said something about a conversation with the divine. And then everything clicked. Everything clicked. Although my intention was honorable in wanting to involve the divine in my decision, I wanted a yes or no answer. And I wanted it pretty immediately. And I realized as I was dancing and as I was sharing with other people that it's because I didn't want to feel the vulnerability of living with this open question and having to kind of understand the clues and look inside and look outside. And I wanted to flip a coin and get my yes or no and then move on. But in the past few weeks, as all of these things have been happening, I've been getting closer and closer and closer to something that feels true. And then I remembered the practices. And I thought, how have I not thought of the practices to establish a conversation with the different? That's the point of them. That's why we have them. And so I'm happy to say that I've shifted my approach. I have not made a decision yet, but I am listening very attentively to my dreams. And when I chant the mantra, I hold the question that I have very lightly in my body and in my heart. And then I'm practicing the dance. And as I dance, there's this particular movement here. And the words are the mind of the great. And I like to imagine that there's this liquid light of understanding that comes down and comes into my hand and comes down along my arm and lands at my heart center. And then from my heart, there's a little bee that goes and collects and then brings it all the way up to my mind, because my understanding comes from my heart and then reaches my mind. And so I am creating space for intelligence that is not from my mind, that comes from everywhere else, and the light and the practices in my heart. And I have a reading that's related to this, which is very accurate. It's in Light and Vibration by Swami Radha. She says, "Wisdom does not drop fully formed from heaven. We would not be prepared for it if it did. There has to be a way to open the mind, to take away fear and hesitation, and to refine the imagination. If the mind fantasizes in the hope or desire to have contact with the very best in oneself, or to take another step towards this greater power, the mind will eventually become strong enough to receive something that it would otherwise be afraid of." I guess this is my invitation to you all to create space for dialogues with the divine in the many ways that we have to do that here at the ashram. And a little bonus to this talk is that there was a dragonfly the other day outside of Mandala where there's the windows, and it was stuck. And so I grabbed the net and I helped the dragonfly out. And then I looked around and I said, "Is this a sign? Is this the sign?" And then it didn't fly away immediately. And so I put my hand in the net and I said, "Is this a sign?" And it walked onto my hand and it flew away. But I'm enjoying the process so much of listening and weaving and collecting the pieces of understanding that I'm not ready to have an answer yet.